Welcome to our YouTube channel, The Alien Tales, and please ensure that you have subscribed.
Our love story told through the colors she turns when I touch her. She's a living canvas of emotion. Blue for contentment, silver for passion, gold for grief. I map our relationship in chromatic waves. The coffee shop disaster wasn't my fault. Technically. Sure, I'd been staring at the peculiar woman in the corner booth for 20 minutes, mesmerized by how her skin seemed to shimmer like oil on water, but I hadn't meant to walk directly into the espresso machine. Smooth, muttered barista Brad. As I untangled myself from the steaming wreckage, the woman looked up from her holographic newspaper, and I caught my first glimpse of her eyes. Kaleidoscope irises that shifted from amber to violet. When she smiled, her entire face radiated a warm coral pink. "Need help?" she asked, standing gracefully. Her voice carried a melodic accent I couldn't place. "I'm fine, just..." My protest died as she reached out to steady me. The moment her fingers touched my forearm, her skin exploded into brilliant turquoise streaked with gold veins. She jerked her hand back, startled. "Sorry, I should have warned you. I'm Chromia." "Like the planet?" I managed, still staring at where she'd touched me. My arm tingled with residual warmth. "Close. I'm from Prism Colony. We're chromodynamic." She gestured at her now fading blue skin. "Emotions show up as colors when we make physical contact with certain species. Humans happen to be particularly reactive. That's either the most elaborate pickup line in the galaxy," I said, "or the most honest introduction I've ever heard." Her laugh turned her cheeks a delightful shade of lavender. "I'm Ryder Castellanos," I added quickly. "Professional disaster, apparently." "Well, Ryder Castellanos," she said, her skin cycling through a rainbow of amusement. "You've certainly made my morning more interesting." But as she turned to leave, I noticed something troubling. A patch of deep crimson spreading across her neck like spilled wine. 3 days of research later, I'd become the galaxy's foremost amateur expert on Prism Colony biology. Chromia had mentioned meeting for proper coffee at Nebula's End Cafe, and I wasn't showing up unprepared again. "You actually came," she said when I arrived, her skin cycling through surprised yellows and pleased blues. Today she wore a flowing jacket that adapted to her color changes, creating stunning patterns. "I brought notes," I admitted, pulling out my tablet. "Basic Prismian chromodynamics, cultural contexts, and, please don't laugh, a color wheel." She did laugh, turning a beautiful shade of mint green. "You researched my entire species for a coffee date?" I wanted to understand what I was seeing. "Like yesterday," I hesitated. "That red color before you left. What was that?" Her expression grew serious, skin shifting to muted gray. "Fear. Not of you," she added quickly. "Of complications, such as, my people don't typically form attachments with off-worlders. The color manifestations can be intense." She touched my hand briefly, and we both watched as brilliant silver raced up her arm. "See," I stared at the metallic sheen. "What does silver mean?" "Attraction. Deep attraction." She pulled away, but not before I caught a flash of deeper silver, almost mirror bright. "Among my people, sustained color manifestation is considered intimate. And that's bad because I've been silver every time I've thought about you for 3 days straight." I reached for her hand again, fascinated as the silver deepened and spread. "So what you're telling me is that I'm irresistible to you. Don't let it go to your head, Ryder Castellanos." But as she said my name, her skin flashed brilliant gold, and her expression changed to something like panic. "What's gold mean?" I asked, but Chromia was already standing, backing away from our table. "I should go," she said, her skin now a muddy brown that I instinctively knew wasn't good. "Hey, wait." I caught her wrist gently, and the touch sent cascades of color across her skin. Silver, gold, deep blue, then a shade of red so dark it was nearly black. "Let go," she whispered, but she didn't pull away. "Not until you explain gold." She closed her eyes, and I watched the colors settle into bands across her arms like living tattoos. "Gold is complicated. It's not one emotion. It's a combination. Deep affection mixed with grief. It's what we feel when we know something beautiful is going to hurt us. And you're feeling that about me? I'm feeling that about us. She opened her eyes, meeting mine. My people form pair bonds, Ryder. Permanent ones. The color manifestations aren't just pretty displays, they're neurochemical responses. If I keep seeing you, if these feelings deepen, you'll be stuck with me? We'll be stuck with each other. Literally. Prismian pair bonding rewrites brain chemistry. It's beautiful and terrifying and completely irreversible. I should have been scared. Any rational person would have run. Instead, I found myself smiling. So what you're telling me is that if we keep dating, you'll eventually be unable to resist my devastating charm permanently? She laughed despite herself, cycling through amused purples. Your humility is truly overwhelming. I have many flaws, but here's the thing. I tightened my grip on her wrist, watching silver and gold swirl together under my touch. I've never felt anything like this either. Her skin went pure white, then exploded into aurora patterns. What's that mean? I have no idea, she breathed. That's never happened before. According to the Galactic Library, aurora patterns are mentioned in exactly 3 Prismian texts, I announced, bursting into Chromia's apartment with my arms full of research materials. She looked up from her easel, where she'd been painting what looked like abstract representations of her color changes. Her skin immediately shifted to happy blues streaked with amused greens. You can't just break into people's homes, even with fascinating research, she said. Your door was unlocked. And look at this. I spread printouts across her coffee table. The aurora pattern appears in pre-bonding rituals, but only between genetically compatible pairs. Apparently, it's how Prismians historically identified their perfect matches. Ryder. Her voice carried a warning, skin shifting toward concerned yellows. Wait, there's more. The 3rd text is a medical journal about a rare condition called chromatic resonance. It only happens when 2 beings have complementary neural patterns. The Prismian essentially becomes a living mood ring for both partners. That's not possible. Humans don't have chromodynamic capabilities. Maybe not usually. I sat beside her on the couch, and her skin immediately began cycling through the now familiar silver and gold. But what if some do? What if that's why you're getting readings you've never seen before? She stared at me. You think you're affecting my colors beyond normal parameters? I think we're affecting each other. I touched her hand, watching the silver deepen. Have you noticed anything strange about yourself lately? Besides the aurora thing? She hesitated. I've been more intuitive, like I can sense your mood even when you're not here. Yesterday, I woke up anxious for no reason, then got your message about the traffic accident. I was in that accident. I know. I felt it. Her skin rippled with worried grays. Ryder, if we're developing a resonance bond, is that bad? It means we're already past the point of no return. The fight started over something stupid. I'd forgotten our dinner plans because I was buried in research about Prismian bonding customs. But it escalated into something much bigger when Chromia's skin went completely black. I can't do this, she said, pacing her apartment while dark colors rolled across her like storm clouds. You're treating our relationship like a science experiment. I'm trying to understand what's happening to us. What's happening is that you're so fascinated by my biology that you've forgotten I'm a person. The black deepened, shot through with angry reds. Do you care about me? Or just my colors? The question hit harder than I expected. That's not fair, isn't it? When's the last time you asked about my job, my family, my dreams? All you want to talk about is chromodynamics and bonding patterns. She was right, and the realization made my chest tight. Chromia, I don't. She held up a hand, and I watched in fascination as her skin began cycling rapidly through colors I'd never seen. Deep purples, electric blues, shades that seemed to exist beyond normal spectrum. Do you see what you just did? I'm having an emotional breakdown, and you're studying me. I'm sorry. You're right. I got so caught up in the science that I forgot about the woman. What woman? Her voice broke slightly. What do you actually know about me beyond my color changes? The apartment fell silent except for the soft hum of the city outside. I realized I didn't know her favorite food, her childhood fears, or what made her laugh when she was alone. I'd been so mesmerized by her chromodynamics that I'd never bothered to learn who she was underneath. I know you paint, I said quietly, and you take your coffee with real sugar because synthetic sweeteners taste like sadness. You're afraid of pair bonding because you've seen what happens when it goes wrong. Her colors slowed, curiosity creeping in. How do you know that last part? Because you've been gold every time we get close to talking about the future. My parents, Chromia said softly, curled against me on her couch. Her skin had settled into gentle waves of blue and silver. They were bonded for 30 years. Perfect chromatic harmony, everyone said. Then one day, my father's colors just stopped responding to my mother's touch. What happened? Bond deterioration. It's rare, but it happens. The neural pathways that create the connection start breaking down. My mother spent 2 years trying to rekindle their resonance. But she shrugged, and I watched sadness ripple across her shoulders in soft grays. She died of chromatic starvation. Chromatic starvation? When a bonded prismian loses their connection, their body forgets how to process color. Everything fades to gray, then black, then she trailed off. My father lasted 6 months after her funeral. I pulled her closer, understanding now why she'd been so afraid. That's why you don't want to bond. I can't watch that happen to us. I can't risk putting you through what my father experienced, or going through what my mother did. But we might not have a choice anymore. I touched her cheek, watching silver spiral across her skin. The research suggests that once chromatic resonance begins, it becomes necessary for both partners' neurochemical balance. She turned to face me fully, her skin cycling through complicated patterns of fear and hope. Are you saying you're already dependent on this? On touching me? I considered the question seriously. Over the past few weeks, I'd noticed changes in myself. Better sleep when I'd spent time with her, restlessness when we were apart, an almost magnetic pull toward her presence. Maybe. Are you? Yes, she whispered. I tried to paint yesterday while you were at work. Every color came out muddy and wrong. It's like my perception is recalibrating around you. So we're stuck with each other. Terrifyingly stuck. But she smiled as she said it, skin warming to fond pinks. There's something else, I said. About the research. Her colors shifted toward curious yellows. What? I think I might not be entirely human. My grandmother, I explained, pulling out a faded photograph, was supposedly from the Outer Rim territories. But look at this. Chromia studied the picture, her skin cycling through confused purples and golds. Her eyes, kaleidoscope irises, just like yours. I pointed to the subtle shimmer visible even in the old photo. I think she was part prismian, which would make me a quarter chromodynamic. Chromia's colors shifted rapidly as she processed this. That would explain the resonance, the aurora patterns, why your touch affects me so strongly. It would also explain why I've been able to sense your moods even when I'm not looking at your skin. She stared at me. You can sense my emotions? I thought everyone could do that. But lately it's been stronger. Like right now. You're feeling hopeful but scared, curious but cautious. I touched her hand. And definitely attracted, based on all that silver. Her skin flashed bright gold. Ryder, if you have chromodynamic heritage, then bonding with me won't just affect your neurochemistry. Could activate dormant genes. You might start manifesting colors yourself. Is that bad? I don't know. There are no recorded cases of human prismian hybrid bonding. We'd be in completely uncharted territory. I grinned. You say that like it's a problem. It could be dangerous. What if your human physiology can't handle chromodynamic activation? What if the bonding process goes wrong? What if it goes right? I countered. What if we end up being something completely new? Her skin cycled through rapid patterns. Fear, hope, excitement, terror. A kaleidoscope of conflicting emotions. You're serious about this? About us? Completely serious. I took both her hands, watching silver and gold swirl together under my touch. I want to find out what we become together, even if it means risking everything, especially then. Her colors suddenly went pure white, then exploded into the aurora pattern from weeks ago, but brighter, more complex, with shades I was certain hadn't existed before. What's that mean? I asked. I think, she said breathlessly. It means yes. The bonding ceremony was supposed to be simple, a traditional Prismian ritual involving sustained contact while reciting compatibility vows. What we got instead was the most spectacular light show in the sector's recorded history. Are you sure about this? Chromia asked for the 10th time, her skin cycling nervously through worried grays and hopeful silvers. I've never been more sure of anything. I took her hands, and immediately her skin exploded into brilliant patterns. Though I have to admit, I didn't expect an audience. Half the research station had gathered outside her apartment windows to watch the chromatic display. Apparently, word had spread about the first human Prismian bonding attempt. Traditional vows first, she said, her voice shaking slightly. Then we maintain contact for 10 minutes while our neural pathways align. And if something goes wrong, then we'll figure it out together. Her skin settled into determined blues streaked with loving golds. Ready, I nodded, and she began speaking in melodic Prismian. I didn't understand the words, but I felt their meaning resonate through our joined hands. Promises of partnership, understanding, permanent connection. When she finished, I gave my response in English, hoping the intent would translate. I choose you, Chromia. In whatever form this takes us, I choose you. The moment I finished speaking, fire raced up my arms. Not pain, pure energy, like lightning made of color. I watched in amazement as my skin began to glow, first faintly, then with increasing intensity. Chromia gasped, her own colors brightening in response. Ryder, look! I looked down at my hands and saw impossible beauty. My skin was cycling through colors I'd never imagined, patterns that seemed to exist in more dimensions than 3. And where our hands joined, our colors were beginning to synchronize. Is this normal? I managed. Nothing about this is normal, she breathed. But it's beautiful. Then the real changes began. The synchronization was unlike anything in recorded Prismian history. Instead of simply matching colors, we were creating new ones. Shades that existed only where our skin touched, hues that seemed to have their own consciousness. The neural mapping is extraordinary, Dr. Vesperia announced to the gathered researchers. We'd become an impromptu case study, though neither of us minded the attention. Complete chromatic harmony, but with unprecedented color generation. What does that mean for us? Chromia asked, her skin currently cycling through contented blues streaked with curious golds. My own newly chromodynamic skin was responding with complementary patterns. It means your bond is creating something entirely new, the doctor explained. Traditional Prismian pairs share emotional resonance through color. You two are generating emotions that don't exist in either of your base species. I looked at Chromia, watching her skin shift to amazed purples. We're inventing new feelings, so it appears. The color combinations you're producing don't match any known chromodynamic patterns. You're literally creating new forms of emotional experience. Over the past week, I'd noticed it myself. When we touched, I felt things I couldn't name. Emotions that existed somewhere between joy and serenity, between passion and peace. Colors flowed across my skin that seemed to carry their own meanings, their own unique flavors of feeling. There's something else, Dr. Vesperia continued. The resonance appears to be expanding beyond your bond. Other Prismians in the area are beginning to manifest colors they've never experienced before. You're not just changing yourselves, you're evolution in action. Chromia's skin went pure white, then cycled rapidly through every color we'd ever produced together. We're affecting other people positively. Enhanced emotional range, deeper capacity for empathy, expanded consciousness. You're pioneers. I squeezed Chromia's hand, watching our unique colors swirl together. So what happens now? Now, she said, skin settling into patterns of pure happiness mixed with something I was beginning to recognize as our own special shade of love. We see what other impossible things we can create together. But as she spoke, I noticed something troubling in her chromatic display. A flicker of deep, unfamiliar darkness that disappeared almost before I could register it. 6 months later, our love had literally changed the galaxy. Prismian colonies throughout the sector were reporting expanded chromodynamic ranges, and the Galactic Institute had established an entire research division dedicated to studying Castellanos' Chromia effect, relationships. I still can't believe they named a phenomenon after us, I said, watching Chromia paint at her easel. Her latest works were impossible, canvases that seemed to contain more colors than the spectrum should allow. I can't believe we started a revolution by accident, she replied, her skin cycling through amused greens and fond pinks. Our color synchronization had evolved far beyond simple matching. We now created ongoing conversations in hue and pattern, entire emotional symphonies expressed through chromodynamic harmony. But lately, I'd been noticing something else. Moments when our colors didn't quite align, brief flickers of darkness that neither of us seemed to control. Chromia? I said carefully. Are you feeling okay? Color-wise, she paused in her painting, skin shifting to cautious yellows. Why do you ask? Sometimes I see gaps in your patterns, like there are emotions you're not sharing. She set down her brush, turning to face me fully. When she did, I saw it clearly. Threads of deep black woven through her usual colors, so dark they seemed to absorb light. I've been having dreams, she admitted. Colors that don't exist, emotions that feel wrong. Like our bond is trying to create something beyond what either of us can handle. I moved closer, taking her hands. Our colors immediately began their familiar dance. But now I could see the darkness threading through both our patterns. What kind of wrong? The kind that makes me wonder if we've pushed evolution too far too fast. Her skin cycled through worried grays shot with that strange darkness. What if we're not pioneers, Ryder? What if we're just the first to break? Before I could answer, our joined hands suddenly exploded with color. Not the beautiful patterns we'd grown accustomed to, but something wild and chaotic, shades that hurt to look at directly. Chromia, but she was already changing, her skin cycling through colors that definitely shouldn't exist, patterns that seemed to exist in impossible dimensions. And I realized with growing alarm that I couldn't let go of her hands. Our bond had evolved beyond our control, and whatever we were becoming next, we were going to discover it together, whether we wanted to or not. The future stretched before us like an infinite canvas, waiting to be painted in colors we had yet to imagine.